Hey everyone, James here. Want to do a quick video on the portfolio manager, talking about a couple new things that I'm working on. A couple of these are still like very experimental, but I wanted to talk through a little bit of my thoughts on a couple things here. So let's go ahead and get this loaded up. I'm going to be looking at the early slate today, just because that's the next most applicable one. I already, as I usually do, I already went through and made these files make sense. So everything should load through fine. Yep, no issues there. One of the things I want to show off here, the first thing I want to show off here is something that is not experimental anymore, and that is similarity scores. So this is not on a big enough screen for us to see them very well, but you'll see them all the way over here, the similarity score. So the similarity score is going to tell you how alike your lineups are based on your portfolio. So what we're seeing here is if you sort 0 to the top, this one is going the higher it is, the higher of a number it is, the less similar they are. So that's a little bit backwards, but you'll get used to it. The lower the number, the more similar they are. So what you'll see is we have these sorted by most similar right now. So what we're going to see is that most of these lineups look alike, right? Like we have a lot of Philly lineups. We have a whole lot of Trey Turner. We have a whole lot of Colt Keith, Brandon Lowe, Bryce Harper, Trevor Williams, Mitch Keller, right? Now, if instead we go over here and we sort this by least similar, we're likely going to end up with things that are not looking like that, right? So let's go back down here and sort these over. So now what we see is a whole bunch of, well, we still have some Trevor Williams, but we get a lot of Mitch Spence in here. We get a lot of Pavetta. We have Yandy Diaz, Bryce Terang. Like these don't look anything like the lineups that are most similar to our portfolio. So similarity score is really important for doing things like lowering volatility and building out large field line portfolios where you don't want to have a whole lot of the same guys. So that's the first thing. The second big thing that I added is some presets here. So now the presets do a couple different things, but I wanted to explain really quick that first off, these are still heavily in testing. I will announce when they're ready for use. They are still not quite ready for use, but I'm getting close. So currently I have 4 presets made here. We have small field, large field, head shock, and volatility. And each one of these accomplish a different kind of thing for the lineups that we want to build. So for small field heavy own, what this does is obviously trying to create lineups and find lineups that make sense for smaller fields. So if I just run this, right, based on my entire portfolio, it's going to kick out, it's going to try to produce 150 lineups that make sense based on small field constraints. So what we would expect to see here is a lot of ownership, right? We're going to expect to see a lot of San Diego, a lot of Tampa Bay. We're going to see a lot of Ryan Pepiot. We're going to see a lot of Sonny Gray, I imagine, in these lineups as well. The lineup edge is likely to be negative on these. That's okay. We don't really mind that much. What we're just trying to do here is put together some small field lineups that have a lot of ownership. So that's the first one. Okay. So then what we're going to look at is the large field one. And the large field one is mostly using that new similarity score to try to spread out your similarity scores so that you can have a little bit more variation in your lineup. So, for instance, right now we're ending up with, I mean, I imagine these are going to go up a little bit when we come down to just 150 lineups. But if we do this, then what we would expect to see is 150 lineups that have a nice even distribution based on their similarity score. So let's go ahead and do that. So we get 137 lineups. And remember, it's not going to be able to do 150 every time, just because there's going to be certain lineups that don't meet your constraints. So let's go ahead and pull this over, right? And now we can see, right? So our similarity score here, if we sort this down, we now have 150 lineups that have a nice even gradient in terms of their similarity score. So this is really nice for being able to just say very quickly and with one press of a button, I want lineups that are not the same across my band. So, and you can actually see here, like what we end up with is pretty similar to what our overall distribution is going to look like across all of our lineups. And then we're also going to get, a nice spread of different teams that are involved in our lineups. So pretty cool one there. Let's go ahead and reset. The next one, and this one is kind of the coolest. This one is going to be hedge chalk. So what this one actually does is it goes into your data load and it says, okay, who are the highest owned players on this slate? In this instance, I think it's going to be Ryan Pepiot, Sonny Gray, and Nick Pivetta. And then it also tries to find who the highest projected ownership for teams are going to be. And what it's going to do is it's going to run one set of lineups using the small field setting and one set of lineups using a large field setting for each of the highest owned players and teams. And what it's going to do is for the small field one, it's going to come in and it's going to say, okay, remove the highest owned player and then do a lot of ownership around those lineups. And then it's going to go in and it's going to say lock the highest owned player. And then it's going to run the large field and manage similarity around those lineups. So the idea here is to say, okay, we're going to have a subset of our lineups that have Ryan Pepiot in them and are managed in terms of similarity so that we spread out our variation. And then it's going to have another subset of lineups that removes Ryan Pepiot, but then looks to add in as much chalk as possible. I've talked about this a lot. I think that when you fade a huge piece of chalk, you should be eating a lot of chalk elsewhere to lower volatility. So we'll see what that ends up looking like here. So we get 150 lineups, and you'll be able to see when we pull this open, you're going to be able to see exactly what it was doing, right? So we start with lineups where we removed Ryan Pepiot, right? So these lineups are removing Ryan Pepiot and then adding a whole bunch of ownership around those lineups, right? And then we can see right when we get back into starting to use Ryan Pepiot. And we're going to have like some combination. Oh, wait, am I resetting these? I think I am resetting these. Wait, no, it's because I am doing this. Hold on. Because of the default sort on this. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Okay, so now you can see in these lineups, you can see based on the ownership. We'll go up here and do this, right? So you can see that these lineups, these removed Ryan Pepiot, right? And so we have a whole bunch of ownership, right? But we don't have 50% owned Pepiot. So that ownership is really not all that bad. And then we have a subset of lineups where we are using Pepiot, right? So here's a whole bunch of lineups where we locked Pepiot in. But with these lineups, we're managing our similarity scores. So these are going to be a whole bunch of lineups that are a little bit different utilizing Ryan Pepiot. Next one, we're removing, I'm pretty sure it is Sonny Gray. So these are going to be lineups that have a lot of ownership, but no Sonny Gray. And then we have lineups that are locking Sonny Gray and managing our volatility around them and managing our similarity scores. Same thing now with Pivetta, right? We're having a whole bunch of ownership with no Pivetta, and then lineups that lock Pivetta in but manage our similarity. And then it's going to look to avoid Tampa Bay stacks and then lock Tampa Bay stacks. And it's going to do that all the way across the band, right? So that's kind of how this works. This is a really cool setting that I'm still working through. This is not like quite ready. As you can see, like through that process, we got 52% Tampa Bay. I want to tamper that down a little bit, but it is pretty cool to be able to do it that way and make sure that we are getting a nice, variation around the different chalk. So the last one that I have here to show off really quick is going to be volatility. So this is heavy lineup edge. And what this one is going to do is it's going to focus on securing high lineup leverage while, let's see if I can remember what I'm doing with this one. This one is looking to find high lineup edge and reducing spreading out our volatility using the similarity score. So if we do this one now, this one is going to give us only a couple lineups, 19. And the reason for that is because when we take a look at the way these come out, we have a whole bunch of lineup edge here, but the similarities between our lineups, they just make it so that it's harder to get more less similarity score as we go down this lineup edge column. So this is the one that is newest, quote unquote newest, the one that I'm working on. I'm still kind of playing around with this one. But I think the small field, large field, and the hedge chalk ones, these ones are all in a pretty interesting spot if you wanted to play around with them. But the main thing that I wanted to show off today was the similarity score. Similarity score is important. It's something that I'm going to continue to build things around. So yeah. Anyway, just wanted to show off some new things I'm working on in the portfolio manager, and we'll keep testing, keep building, and getting ready for NFL. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for the support, and I will talk to you later.